Watch fam? What is up, Watch fam? I'm Christian from Theo and Harris, and welcome to episode 103 of ASKTNH. Before we get into it, we'll do a quick wristwatch check. I am wearing a Datejust 1601 with a white dial that's in the inventory right now. And if not right now, then in like 40 minutes. So go over to theoandharris.com and check it out. This watch is absolutely incredible. The fat, beefy, crispy, sharp, whatever you want to call it, lugs to me are just, I mean, they make my knees a little shake. You know, I'm just a huge Datejust fan, but you guys already know that. So check out the shop at theoandharris.com, and now we'll get into the question. Okay, so this question is obviously, you know, in light or in response to all of the news on every channel for the past couple months. You know, it's the presidential election. And let me be very clear, we are not going to make any political statements in this episode. It's not the point. You don't want my political opinion. I don't want your political opinion, not because I don't like you. It's just because, you know, like it or not, and although I totally disagree with with the point that, I totally disagree or am annoyed that political conversations end up in like a war, but it's the truth, and that's it. So we're going to stick to watches on this channel. So we're going to talk about the presidents and watches, not our opinions on the presidents, just our opinions of the president's watches. So let's do that. Let's boil this down to the beginning between I break it down into two large groups of people and their relationship to watches: those who care and those who don't. I respect both of those people equally. Absolutely nothing there. You know, if you don't like watches, I don't care. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to try to get you to like watches just because I do, and I happen to think that my infectious, you know, passion will eventually get certain people, you know, interested in these little mediums, these little machines. But I'm perfectly fine if you're not. Presidents don't wear nice watches anymore. That's I don't know who started it. I think Bill Clinton started it because, you know, Bush wears a Patek every day of the week. So I don't know who started it, but I think that it was Bill Clinton. You know, and Clinton did that whole thing that was kind of cool. And once again, I don't think was I even alive when Clinton was president? If I was a baby, so it didn't really matter. But there's a whole thing about, you know, wearing the sunglasses, you know, playing the saxophone on late night television, wearing like a Timex or like a Casio. You know, he was a normal guy you would have a kind of a drink with, and I think that was cool. I think that at the time, or looking back, that was totally perceived as like, oh, cool, like, you know, yeah, still a, you know, oldish, you know, white dude that's a president, but it wasn't, you know, it was the opposite of stuffiness, right? It was the opposite. It was much more so of just a younger, not young, but a younger dude that, you know, wasn't pretentious, like took the whole leader of the free world thing in a very cool way. And I respect that. All, you know, whether you hate Bill Clinton, I don't know what the fuck your opinion is on Bill Clinton, I don't care. But in a very just casual, you know, lay way, I get why he did that. Or I could see why he would do that. He also may just not have cared about, you know, watches. This is also a thing. But I do think that there is a point, or there is a POV to be had, that it's very strategic for presidents or leaders of, you know, in any sense, like Bill Clinton, whether it's Barack Obama, whoever the fuck, to wear unassuming, humble watches. That being said, I don't like, if I had proof, or I knew that a president or anyone, you know, tried to kind of deceive with their watch or clothing choice, I don't like that. I get you don't want to isolate people. I totally understand that, but I think that it does lead to kind of shallow conversation. You know, I'm not wearing a Rolex, so I'm not, you know, I'm not the 1% because I'm not wearing a gold Patek. Not true. It's totally, all you have to do is think about it for a second. I mean, you know, a president makes, what, $400,000, which is a lot of money, and that's the least they'll ever make from here on out. You know, so they're not like one of like the people. So I have no problem with that. It's in my opinion, and once not to get too political, but it's your actions that determine what kind of person you are, whether you're in touch with normal people, or whether you're a total elitist who's a total jerk off. That's totally, you know, your thing. But the reason I'm talking about this is not just because of politics, but this creeps into life all the time. You know, do I want to wear my Rolex, you know, here or there? Enter two places in which people may view you poorly as wearing a Rolex. You know, you're going to go visit your girlfriend's family in the Midwest. Her father's you know, an oil man, or maybe not an oil man. Oil men are usually pretty wealthy, but her father's, you know, I don't know, an agriculturalist. You know, and you don't really want to show up in you know, in your Crockett and Jones loafers and your Rolex. I get it. And I think I might not either. I think I would be influenced by that, but to a certain extent. And I don't think that it's like, I don't think it's fair to you or to me or to anyone to kind of like deceive in that way. If I wore a Swatch every day for 2 years in front of certain people, I'm being deceptive in a way. And I don't think that's cool. I think that it takes this hobby and makes it, diluted, and it makes it kind of poisonous in a lot of ways, and that's not cool. And that's kind of my point here. Whether you're the president or whether you are a boss of someone or whether you are the employee, it doesn't matter where you stand, I think. I think that we should all just be a little bit more, confident in the watch that we choose to wear, not try to maybe once or twice or here and there strategically because the risk outweighs the benefit. I get that, but I still don't think that we should be necessarily embarrassed by the watches we choose to wear. And keep that in mind. I'm not talking about solid gold, Pateks. I'm not talking about platinum 5970s. Enter photo of platinum 5970 for just pure watch porn. To most of the country and probably most of the world, a Rolex Submariner, which we are in the watch community are so arrogant to think that that's like a normal, like it's like a whatever watch. Who cares? You got a sub. That's like fucking end of the world watch. That to a lot of people, that like $8,000 is astronomical, non-comprehensible. I mean, it's totally out of this world money to spend on a fucking watch. So we all have to check ourselves, I think. I think that it's funny, like the same way, people who are going to get into shape say, tomorrow. A lot of other people say, oh, well, it's the next level that's offensive. Mine is, and I'm just normal. Not true. It's all kind of awkward to a lot of people. Once again, I wear Rolexes almost, not every day, but a lot of days of the week, but I think that just like a lot of you who I've met, you're just not a just don't be a dick, and no one's gonna think that, oh, they're looking down upon me because they're wearing a Rolex. They're gonna say, oh, that's cool. I mean, I have a preconception about people who wear Rolexes, but actually, Chris is a really nice guy. I don't call myself Chris. Why did I do that? Or Jack's a really nice guy, or whomever. And I think that it would be good in a very luxurious and a very like I have no other problems in the world way to start to change people's perception about luxury watches a little bit. As not like douchey things, not about like I'm putting you down because I'm wearing an expensive watch. Just hey, he's just interested in that. And yeah, of course he makes a little bit of money, because look at what he's wearing and his priorities are a little different than mine. But yeah, he's just a cool guy. So bring it back to the presidents, bring this whole thing home. I think that Donald Trump wears a Patek Ellipse 3548, I think is the reference. I could be wrong. I love that watch. I doesn't wear it all the time. I've only seen it in 1 or 2 photos. I think it's a great watch. It's a Patek from the 70s. It has it's a dress watch, but it's a very like bizarro 70s dress feel. It's like it has no lugs and an oval. It's a very cool watch. I have no idea who Hillary Clinton wears. I just don't know. I think that Barack Obama, I don't know what he wore, but it was a very normal civilian-ish watch, not expensive by any means. And once again, if you're not a watch person, that's fine. But I also do think that if everyone in the country is going to crawl up your ass on every other issue, whether that's tax returns or health or blah, 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 and everything that these things they want to know for all of these facts, like I said, health and tax returns and all of these things, we can also look at the things that they're wearing and just assume stuff. I mean, I know that George Bush was wearing, like $13,000 Oxford, XX suits. So what, if Donald Trump, wears a Patek? So what if Hillary Clinton, wore a solid gold Daytona? I just don't care. That has no influence on my opinion of Ellen. So why should it really make me feel like, oh, they're not, necessarily suited? That a lot of the time, your wealth or what you're willing to spend on watches, your priorities, a lot of time that does correlate to what kind of person you are. But it's totally unfair. I mean, completely unfair to judge someone solely on that, or even largely on that. It's ridiculous. Someone, wearing a Swatch can, unassumingly rob you blind, and they wore that Swatch and that humble, kind of like suit and that tie because they didn't want you to fear them. That's like a thing. I know I really didn't answer that much of a question. What watch is appropriate for a president to wear? I think ultimately the answer is any watch that president wants to wear. And I totally understand how they may say like, it. I love vintage Patek, but God knows how it's going to be swallowed up in the press. And I get their thing, but I don't also really care about the president's watch as much as I do about how we consume watches, how our priorities are viewed by the general public. And I think that, just to be very clear, as long as we are normal, cool, nice, humble people, no one's really going to hold that solid gold Royal Oak against you, even if it's kind of a you watch. There are plenty of very nice, very cool people who, I'm not saying I would vote for them for president, because I don't think they're running for president, but that I would trust with taking care of me and taking care of other people and whatever. They're not like sharks and evil people because they're wearing super expensive watches. And I think that sometimes the public does view that. But I think that as watch geeks, we should take it as our responsibility to say, no, they're part of the hashtag watch fam, let me explain. So that's it, guys. That's episode 103 of ASKTNH. God knows where it went, but check out the new inventory at theoandharris.com/watch shop because it's